Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Clementine Bordeaux, and I'm here on behalf of Racing Magpie and our whole team. I want to welcome you to our exciting presentation today with Larissa FastHorse, a part of our winter camp programming. Larissa will be talking today and giving us a script writing workshop, which I'm really excited about. If you don't know, Racing Magpie is a Lakota-centric arts and culture organization here in Mini-Luzaha, Otumahe in Rapid City, South Dakota, in which we center the Lakota practice of being a good relative in everything that one does. Our work is focused on elevating and amplifying the ongoing work of community-based artists and culture bearers across the region. And as part of being a good relative, this program reimagines the Lakota winter camp model of problem solving and community building in today's world. And we do this by examining our deep cultural roots in the way that Lakota people do things and interact with the universe around us. While these events are open to the public, they uplift and focus Oceti Sakowin community members as both presenters and attendees. We'd also like to thank the Bush Foundation for their generous sponsorship of this program. And if you would like to find other ways to support Racing Magpie, you can always visit our website, make a donation. You could visit our new location here in Mini-Luzaha. Or, of course, you can always support our artists. You can buy their work, follow them on social media, uplift their work in the ways that you know how. And throughout the presentation and workshop, if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the Zoom chat. So if you're here with us in the Zoom room, or if you're on Facebook Live, I'll be monitoring the comments. So if there's any questions that you have for Larissa, just raise your hand or just drop a question and I will make sure Larissa sees it. And so without further delay, I just want to quickly introduce Larissa. I was teasing her earlier. I was like, do you want me to read your whole bio? You know, we could probably just spend the whole time talking about all of Larissa's accomplishments. But first and foremost, she's a playwright and she is a storyteller, and she works with and for communities, especially Indigenous communities, to uplift our stories. I had the privilege of working with her just this past week in uplifting and telling the stories of Dakota youth in Ihanknoan territory. So I will pass it to you, Larissa.
Yay, thank you. Hello, everybody. So I'm Larissa FastHorse. I'm Sicangu Lakota from, my people are from Oak Creek, but I grew up mostly in Winter and Pierre, mostly Pierre. And I now live in Los Angeles, the land of the Tongva, Tataviam, Chumash, and Kuya. And, you know, I'm leaving some people out in that whole kind of LA area. Right now, though, I'm here in Lower Brule. So I don't know if any of you are out, you're watching. Hi, come by and wave. We're at the first floor of the casino hotel because, yeah, we just left Lake Andes. Sorry, no, I'm screwed up my little thing. Oh, look, there's my website. So anyway, we just left yesterday. We were here today chatting with folks, and I'll just say quickly why we're here, wonder why, and then just talk a little bit about that kind of work, and then we'll talk specifically about just writing things, because I think a lot of times I say I'm really fortunate. I am a playwright. That's my primary job. I also write in film and television as well. But what I love is theater. I love theater because it is, it's natural, right? For Indigenous peoples all over the world, but also particularly since we're talking about that, here, the space we're in, Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people, it's something we've been doing forever. It's storytelling, theater. They're all ultimately the same thing. And the ways we used to tell stories with, you know, music and dance and words and, you know, campfires and moving from place to place, all that is, you know, different in Western theater terms. They're words for like all of how we talk about that. So a lot of my life, my professional life as a writer, I've had to do this translating of, okay, well, what I'm talking about is instead of going around different fires to tell stories, I'm talking about immersive or interactive or, you know, place-based theater, or all these different words I have to use, kind of translate it into Western theater terms to get people to pay me to do this because it's my job. My only job is doing writing. So I've had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to talk about what really just do what we do as Native people, but in a way that the Western theater people will take it. That's been my choice. It's certainly not everybody's choice. Lots of people have no interest in doing that. But I chose that I felt like the opportunities I was given at the very beginning of my career and told me that I had a path that was already laid out for me to be able to be a translator. And I think that's always been part of my life. My father's Lakota, but my mother was white. I was connected, I was adopted by a white family, but still knew a lot of my FastHorse family. And so then ended up moving to Pierre. And so I feel like my world has always been about translating and being a bridge. And that's my role. And I've accepted it sometimes more gracefully than others. And I think a lot of us though feel that sometimes you want to be one thing or something else, and done. You want to be something, or you want to be accepted or seen in one way. And I realized that actually the gift I've been given is that I can see things in many ways, and that's what I do. So I say all that because as a theater maker and a playwright, I write for like traditional Western theaters. That's kind of half of my career over here, where I have plays going up in New York and Los Angeles and at the Guthrie and all over the country. I'm very fortunate. It hasn't quite been announced yet, but that I'm going to have my first Broadway play. I'll be possibly the first known Native American female playwright in Broadway. We've had a male Native playwright, but as far as we know, not a female in the history of Broadway, which is depressing, but also a great honor. I always say that we know of, because we all know there's often folks that didn't feel comfortable at different times of our history disclosing that they were Native American. So anyway, I write for those kinds of big stages. And then I also do the work that I love, which is what Clementine was helping us with last week, which is working in communities and using the gifts and the opportunities I've been given and the resources I've been given. I would say for me, theater is kind of a money laundering. Like I take money through traditional theater granting organizations and I can just kind of funnel it back to communities. So we are here right now working on a very different kind of theater again. It's with Cornerstone Theater Company. And this is my third play, or third, we call them theatrical experiences we're creating, where we work in communities. We go and just talk to people and say, hey, what do you want us to write about? And just get lots of people to give input on how they want us to write and represent them. And then I write some things and then bring them back, and then we read them. Mike kind of directs everybody to read them together and then tell us, okay, what did we get right? What did we get wrong? What do you want more of? And we just together as a community, we create the scripted part of this, whatever the experience is. And then Michael directs, my partner, I keep saying this because he's in the room right over there. That one right there. So Michael then is the director, Michael John Garces, and he directs the production, and again with the community, always saying it's always with community members performing in the plays, and then he is constantly asking the community, how should we do this? How should we do that? Is this the correct way? Is this, what's still missing? Who isn't being heard? How? And we try to make sure it's always representing community, with community members hired to perform, and then we do these plays where the community wants them done. We've had the community we worked with, Indigenous community in Los Angeles, said we want you to do them for white people because they've been declared extinct by the federal government and they desperately needed more support and allies to try to get their recognition back. And so they really wanted us to specifically write a play to the white people to help them understand what they're going through and get more allies. Where when we worked in Arizona with a bunch of tribes there, they said, no, we just want this to be for us. We don't need to talk to the white folks. So we did in a show that was for us. There was one presentation that was outward facing, but then one that was only on Otham land and was not for them. So I tell you all that just to say that there's so many different kinds of theater and different ways of doing theater. Yes, it is all basically storytelling, but then if you want to translate all of that, so, all those things that I'm doing with community is really just our storytelling, right? But to translate it in a way that it gets funded, that funders understand what we're talking about, and that they understand how to give us the money to pay everybody so we won't have to do this for free. To get those things, we have to translate it onto the page in a different way. So that's always been our issue, right? In Indian country, is everything has to be put on the page in the right way, to make the rest of the folks understand this. So that's what I'm here to talk about, is how do we translate the stories and the things we want to say onto the page in a way that really makes sense to us, and still holds the way we want things to be done, and yet looks like a quote, proper script, whatever that is. And so, but the way that the Western theater world looks at a script, or even the film and TV world. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. Couple really quick, simple things, and I just have to pull up my, there we go. Ooh, I just lost my Zoom. Ooh, okay, my Zoom screen went away for a second, scared me. Okay, so a couple quick things I wanted to say is, I've got chat messages that aren't popping up. There we go. Oh, cool. Hi, everybody. People saying hi on Facebook. Yay. Really simple first step is just, how does a script, when you're talking about writing dialogue in a script, we're just gonna quick do that. How does that look on a page, right? It's amazingly, because we're traveling and I don't carry paper with me when I'm traveling, I just have this little teeny tiny notebook. I realized I don't have a script with me anywhere. I looked all over. So I left them all with Faith Spotted Eagle in Lake Andes. I let her have all the scripts the kids made last week. In our workshops, we have the kids always write their own plays and then perform them, by the way. I just think it's really important that if they're going to be acting, they should also be writing down their own stories. So it fully represents exactly who they want to be and how they want to be seen in the world, which is very exciting to me anyway. So I made a little fake script here on my piece of paper. I know this is really low rent and sad, but so this is how easy it is for script format. But lots of people get hung up on script format. I talk to people and they're like, I don't know what to do. It's too hard. It's too complicated. I don't know how to do it right. And I'm afraid, they're afraid of how, people are going to perceive it, and it's going to be deemed unprofessional, whatever. So this is a basic script format this is for plays, for theater. So in theater, you have right around the middle of the page, you have the action. So like it tells you what's happening, or it tells the setting, or, says, Larissa is standing in front of an iPad on a stack of towels in a hotel room at the Golden Buffalo Casino. So that's would go right over here, halfway across. So this is, I'm afraid it's on Facebook. I mean, it's flipped because of the screen, but assume this is like normal. This is how you'd read it, like, this way. So the middle of the screen is where the action happens, any descriptions, stuff like that. Then all you have to do is over here, all the way over on the, not the screen, sorry, it's a piece of paper. On the left, you'd have a character name in caps. So I put Larissa in all capital letters. And then right under that, you just put what she says. She said, what is dialogue? Larissa said. And then you leave a space, and then you put the next character in capital letters, Peter. And then if you have something you want them to, parentheses, a parenthetical, meaning, an emotion or something that might not be obvious, like I put, they just put a parentheses there. I put parentheses and I wrote laughing. So Peter's laughing. And he says, don't you know? And I put laughing because don't you know could be said in a mean way, could be said in a scared way, it could be it's a question that could be interpreted a lot of ways, but I wanted to be clear that he was laughing about it, and we're having a good time teasing each other, right? And then skipped not like he feels some way about it, just he's teasing me, right? So then you skip a line again, and I put my name, my character, Larissa, in capital letters, and I said, right, that's my job. And then we go to the middle and says, she pulls out a notebook. So that's it. That's how simple a script can look, but imagine it typed and you could read it. My handwriting's so atrocious. So all it has to be is just remember, action starts in the middle. Character names and dialogues start on the left. And if you have a parentheses that you need to put something, you put it just in parentheses at the beginning of the dialogue. Now, there are 1,000 other ways to do script formatting, but this is a basic one for theater scripts. If you want to do film and TV scripts, they're a little different. You actually just reverse the action and the character name. So in theater, film and TV scripts generally, and again, there's some variations, but you put the action all the way over to the left. So it's a long line because you do a lot more description in film and TV because it's a visual medium. Unlike theater, which is a dialogue spoken medium, film and TV is visual. There's often whole scenes that are just physical descriptions. So you need a long line for that. So you take this action line, you put it over here and you explain, you set the scene. It's a cold, windy day in Lower Brule. And so the temperature says it's 42, but it feels like -2. You can tell because of the wind blowing the bare trees, right? So all of that you would have in these long lines. And then when you get to the first character in film and TV, you put that character name in all caps in the middle. So you center it. But then you put their dialogue over here again on the left. So the only thing you do is center this and move the action over. So that's it, film and TV. Now you can write either any kind of script you want. So those are the basics. Every once in a while, you'll come across someone who's going to say, you know, I want it this way, I want it that way. Fine, you know, just adjust it. But the nice thing is, you know, you don't, to do it like this version, it's so easy. You can just do it in Word, on any kind of Word, you know, pages, whatever. You don't need any special fancy script software. I know a lot of professional writers who never buy fancy script software. They just use Word or Pages and they set the tabs to the middle and use them when they want to. And that's that easy. So that's something I love about script writing. It's really simple. You don't need special things. You can just do it. So that's quick mechanics about what a script needs to look like. So that's one of the first questions I get from people is how it needs to be formatted. So that's that. And then just make sure you have a page number. So I didn't write one here in the lower corner. Generally, they don't put a page number on page 1. I don't know why, but so you start on page 2, you'd have it in the lower right-hand corner is your page number. And then you also have a title page, and literally that's just centered type that says the title, by your name, and then some kind of contact information wherever you want it, either flush right or flush left. That's it. If you are doing a play, they have a second page after the title page. It's a character page where you list all the characters and a little bit about them. You don't have to do that for film and TV. They just kind of you put the descriptions in as you go in film and TV scripts. So whenever a new character comes up, you put their name in capital letters and then a quick little description of them. It's only in theater that you write that character page generally. So that's, the only other thing that I can think of that's in a script as far as formatting. So there, now everyone can format a script. It's really easy. And you can do it in any program. You don't need special ones. There are lots of special programs for scripts. I personally use Final Draft. I was just lucky I was in a native program really early, and that's what they gave me. Final Draft just makes it so you don't have to tab. Like it chooses the next element for you. So it remembers, like if I'm writing my script between Peter and Larissa, when I'm done with Larissa and I put return, it'll just automatically suggest Peter. And I just hit return to end, so I don't have to type Peter again. So it makes it quicker. So it does things like that. So those are nice softwares. They're kind of expensive though, but you know, you can get a school discount if you're in school. You can get them a lot cheaper. There's also one called Movie Magic that I haven't used, but I hear that's really nice and I think a little less expensive than Final Draft. And again, you can use those for any kind of script. It just kind of makes things a little bit quicker. But I know so many professional writers that don't use them. So don't feel like you have to get anything fancy to be able to write a script. All right. Let's see, is that all the mechanics? I'm making sure in my head, that's all the mechanics I want to cover. So what I want to do is I would like us to do a little bit of writing. And then I'll kind of talk as we write. So I'm going to give you a couple, this is my 2-second warning here, to have a pen or piece of paper or computer with a screen that you can type on. You're on a computer now, but have a screen open where you can type. So we're going to do a little bit of writing. I'm kind of old school and I like to write with my hands some, but you know, I can't read it. So I prefer handwriting, but I just can't read my writing. It's really sad. So I'm vamping here while you get out something to write on. So we're going to write a little bit. there's a couple things I like to do. A lot of people ask me, this is, oh, here we go. Here's a good vamp while you're getting ready. Some people often say to me like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to, begin writing. And so I'm going to go through a few exercises that I use to kind of start my day, to help me get my mind in the right place. A lot of things you have to do preparation, you have to do proper ceremony, or you have to stretch, or you have to, do different, change the right clothes for things or whatever. I approach writing that way too. I give myself a little transition time to get into the right frame of mind to be writing, and to get out of, honestly, to get out of my conscious mind. So your biggest enemy to the writer is your conscious mind. It will tell you you're wrong and it's bad. I'm sure it does this in many other things. It tells you don't know what you're doing. It tells you all kinds of terrible things. It tells you can't think of anything to write about, and all of that. So I do these first few exercises to get out of my conscious mind and to get into the physical act of writing. Because to be perfectly honest, writing is really tiring. It's a really tiring physical act. I love it, but it takes a lot of energy, and it takes actual physical work, typing or write longhand, whatever it is, and using your brain. So as much as possible, I try to get myself out of this conscious brain and get into my subconscious brain, and just let things start flowing through me. Different writers, like any artist, we have different inspirations. A friend of mine, Diane Glancy, a Cherokee writer, she drives around the country in her car and waits for a spirit or something, or perhaps a whatever, mostly spirits, to tell her a story that needs to be told. And she hears them talking, and she pulls over the side of the road, and she just starts writing as fast as she can, just writing down what they're telling her. And then she figures out how that fits into a play later. So, there's a lot of different ways people do it. I like to use these exercises. They're called I didn't invent them. They're called wild mind exercises. And they're just a real nice way to just get out of the conscious brain and get into the subconscious, and to get into the physical connection and start. Okay, I think that's enough time for y'all to get ready. So we're going to do just like a few really quick timed writing exercises. So there's going to be like weird silence while I'm just hanging out while you're writing for a little bit here. I'm pulling up my timer so we don't go too long. Not an hour. There we go. All right. So there are rules to wild mind writing. I'm going to tell you what the prompt is, and when you start, here are the rules. Because remember, we're trying to get out of our conscious brain. We're going into our subconscious brain. The rule number one is you don't read this writing to anyone unless you want to. But you don't, this is not writing to be shared. This is writing for you. This is for you and your process to get you ready to go. Okay, so that's rule number one. Writing is just for you. So you don't have to be afraid of it, because no one's going to read it. Rule number two, this is the really, really important rule, is when you start writing, when I say go, you don't stop. And it doesn't matter if all you're saying is over and over again, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Over and over. Do that until something is ready. It just comes out, and it will. That's the point, is we're trying to get out of this conscious mind that's telling you don't know what to write about, and get into the subconscious mind, which has so much to tell you and has so many things to write about. All right. So those are our two, I think those are only two rules. Yeah. Yeah. So the first rule, Clementine put them in the chat for you, is that number one rule is that, what's the rule? Oh yeah, you don't have to share with anybody. Number two is once you start writing, just don't stop until I tell you to stop. We're going to do 3 minutes for each exercise. We're going to do like 3 of these, I think. We have time, yeah. We're going to do at least 3 of these. So here we go. The first one is, which one do I do? I do first? Yeah. First one we're going to do, this is one that I think is often very helpful, because it's how we usually feel when we sit down, is you're going to write, I do not want to write about. I do not want to write about. And then keep going. Ready? And remember, no one's going to read it. So don't edit. Just don't stop writing, whatever you do. Ready, set, go. I do not want to write about. And just keep writing. And even if you don't know, just keep saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, until something else happens. Don't edit. Don't worry. No one else is going to read this. I'm now going to be quiet. I'm watching my clock, don't worry. You're already halfway done. Just keep writing. Just give yourself that gift of 3 minutes of writing. It's a really cool gift. Writing without judgment. Ten-second warning. Get to the end of your thought. All right. Stop. Great. So that was 3 minutes. Shake your hand out. So we're going to do a couple more of these. So shake your hands out and I'll talk for a second while you do that. Good friend of mine, what he does with these writings is he does them every day before he starts like write his script writing. And he keeps them in either, he said either journal, or if he's traveling, he keeps them in one file on his computer that he calls the bank. And he says, these are money in the bank. Even though you're not going to read them to anybody else, sometimes when you're like, I'm not sure what to write about, I'm not sure, blah, blah. So remember he had a thought during, whatever, one of these sessions. And so he goes back through them and he finds them in the notebook or on the file on his computer. And he says, it's money in the bank. When you need something, I had this piece of dialogue or I thought of this interesting character when I was doing this exercise. And so he goes back and finds them in there and uses them. All right, so the next one we're going to do, you've had enough time to shake out your hands, get ready. Here we go, another 3 minutes. You're going to write, I do want to write about. I do want to write about. Ready, go. Just write. Give yourself the gift of 3 minutes of writing. I do want to write about. No judgment. No one's going to read it. Unless you want them to. halfway. Keep going. All right, 10-second warning. Get to the end of your thought. Great. All right, cool. So there you go. You already did a bunch of writing. You should have a couple good chunks of writing sitting there. All right, we're gonna do one more because I just want you to see sort of what these are about. There's another one, I'm just gonna tell you real quick, there's a whole infinite amount of these you could do, right? So I like to do that I don't wanna write about and I do wanna write about. I try to do those opposites. I also wanna have a character. So here's another thing I'll do. Like, so I'm working on a story and I have a character and I'm trying to figure out what they're gonna do next. I'll use these exercises and I'll write as the character. Like, I don't want to do and I do want to do. I love, I hate, different things like that. I've also, I'll do that now. Maybe I might change order. Yeah, I'm going to change order. We're not going to do another one of those yet. So I'm going to do that after with a character that we're going to create right now. So sometimes I'll do them as myself to get started, but then when I'm stuck with the character, I'll let the character do this wild mind writing, this nonstop. Don't think about it, just write as the character, put on a timer so I can't, I know it's going to end. And I just write and write as that character. And I always try to do opposites. I love, I hate, I want, I don't want, things like that. And for me another one I do often with the characters, I'll have them write a letter to someone significant, their mother, their father, their ex, their child, their grandmother, whatever it is, so I have them write letters to people and I do it though in this timed way. So it's just getting a lot of things out and kind of unblocking where that character is and helping them figure out where to go next. So that's something, I use both for myself and for my work when I'm working on things. So next we're gonna do a quick scene. I know time's happening. I'm gonna do a quick scene. So these are all time exercises to get you started. So this one is called 3-word dialogue. So it's a pretty, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're writing dialogue in a maximum of 3 words. So we're going to do it and then I'll kind of talk about what we use it for. So what I need you to do is I need you to come up with 2 characters. Again, no one is going to see this. You're safely at home or wherever you are. So don't, lament over it. It can be anything. It can be, lamp and bottle. You know what I mean? Don't just come up with 2 characters. You're going to come up with 2 characters. For each character, I want you to put down just a descriptor of what they are, kind of being they are. They might be, this summer the kids created the character of Inya, who was, obviously stone. So it can be any type of being. It doesn't have to be human. It could be lamp and bottle. So choose names. And again, even if you can't come up, and if you don't want to come up with a name right now, then just put, A and B. That's fine, or 1 and 2. I do that all the time. I have a script right now that I'm working on, and everybody just has a letter because I'm like, I can't be bothered with names. They will tell me their names when they're ready. And so I just started with A, B, C, D. And so come up with 2 characters and give them some kind of, I don't want to say personify because they don't have to be people, but just make them into whatever kind of being they are. So A is a 2-year-old silver and white bedside lamp. B is a bottle, an empty bottle that previously held juice. Like, you know, whatever. Or if it's a person, Larissa is one character and she's a Lakota woman, you know, just a couple little descriptors. I mean, I'm talking, but you should be thinking and writing. So 2 characters and just kind of describe them briefly. We just had a character was what? Michael, a 4-year-old boy, Dakota boy at a powwow. So I'm giving you a second to come through 2 characters and a little descriptor of what they are. And then the next thing you're going to do, and I'll just go ahead and say it, is then one character, assign them a need, and the second character needs to be an obstacle to that need. So, you know, you want to say that, you know, well, your first character needs something desperately. They want something out of this moment that we're in. And your second character has a way is in the way, whether intentionally or not. They're stopping them from getting what they need in some way. So figure out, those are the things you want to figure out. 2 characters, their basic characteristics. One character needs something, love, help, to open this storm window. And the other character is in their way. They don't love them. They are not able to help them right now because they're at work or they're busy or something. They don't want to, or they don't know how, they don't want me to open the storm window because it uses up too much heat when the window's open. So 2 characters, a couple of things about them, a need and an obstacle, a way that the other character is stopping them from having that. And be probably quiet for a second while you finish doing that. I'm going to create a little scene. All right, so I'm going to believe you've come up with those basic things. And again, this is just an exercise, so don't feel married to anything. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be as foolish and silly as you want. It's just an exercise to learn how to get yourself started. So now what you're going to do is you're going to start with your first character that needs something, and they're going to say what they need. And then, I just told me I was going to raise my hand. I wasn't trying to raise, I was trying to gesture. Anyway, you're going to start with one character and what they need, and they're going to say what they need, and then the other character is going to respond in the way that they're an obstacle. But here's the catch. So for this exercise, which is an exercise to start generating a scene and start generating dialogue, which is just 2 people talking, each line can only have a maximum of 3 words. So 1, 2, 3, that's it. You can have 1 word, 2 word, or 3 words. And they have to, so in this scene, character 1 has to say what they need and try to get it. Character 2 has to be in the way and be an obstacle. And then by the end of the scene, one of them either gets what they want or the other one does. So either character 1 is successful or they're not, or they fail, or there's something in between. So, but remember, you can only use 3 words per line. So for instance, I wrote probably a fairly typical scene between Clementine and I. So, so the first one is Larissa says, I want time. Clementine says, for what? Larissa, everything. Clementine, can't have it. Larissa, why not? Clementine, it's not yours. Larissa, what's not? Clementine, everything. Larissa, bummer. Clementine, not really. that's as far as I got while you guys were writing. So that's just, so each line has a maximum of 3 words of me trying to get all the time and all the things. And Clementine, once again, reminding me, I don't get to have all the time and all the things because they're not mine. I think it sounds about right because I'm an only child. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to be quiet. If you have questions or you're confused or lost, go ahead and put them in a chat somewhere. Clementine's I'm here on Zoom, but Clementine's looking at the Facebook, and we can do that. So go ahead and just start. I'm going to pull up the chat in case anything comes up, and we'll see what happens. And we'll talk about how you use these scenes. So I'm being quiet for a few minutes here. Like, I'm gonna give you like 5 minutes. Anyone tuning in is gonna be like, what is this Zoom? Or she's just staring out the window. So I'm putting on a timer for 5 minutes. Let's see how far we get. There you go. I'm quiet. About halfway done, a little over halfway. Try to get some kind of resolution between your 2 characters. Sorry. Just trying to clear my microwave and turned it on. One more minute. Try to get to a conclusion. Try to really stick to no more than 3 lines, 3 words. If you absolutely positively must have a 4th word, okay, but try to do it with 3. There's no word police. They're gonna come get you. All right, 10 seconds. Wrap up your last thought. If you haven't already. All right, it's 5 minutes. Okay, so hopefully that went pretty well. We'll see. I won't know because I'm here and you're there. But so why do we do this? Why do we do this? So here's the thing. Here's one of the biggest differences between storytelling and dialogue. Dialogue needs to keep moving. So when we get into script writing, we're talking about scripts, movie, TV, theater. It's very much about pace and about moving quickly and about visuals. And it's not, we don't get to sit as long in just saying things fully as sometimes we'd like to. So storytelling is entirely just my voice talking and going on and explaining things and painting a picture in your head, where theater, film and TV, the picture's right in front of you. Here it is, here's a person doing a thing. So you don't have to, there isn't as much description. And the exciting thing about theater versus storytelling is it is dialogue. So in theory, there would be another person here who's looking and reacting and we're talking back and forth. And that's interesting, right? We enjoy what we see in movies and TV and film and script writing is the interaction between characters. And we like to, it's like we're sneaking in and getting to watch them in their lives, in their private lives, right? Where storytelling tends, not always, it can be very private too, but tends to be more, my other character is you, the audience, right? So dialogue and script writing in dialogue is the audience getting to get a sneak peek into these two people. Most of it is us getting to see a sneak peek of two characters or more interacting, and that's the biggest difference. So that said, I would say one of the biggest, most common problems for new writers is writing too much. So doing what I'm doing right now, talking, right? So you're here to hear me talk and to help you do things. But if you're going to a play or watching a TV show, you don't want to just see someone going on and on about something, because it's not that kind of thing. They've got this other character here and they're going on and on. So the other character's like, okay, I got it. So we really, you want to keep pace. Pace is so different, and you have to keep things happening. You have to keep what we call action. Action in writing doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing something. It just means the story is moving forward because of the dialogue. The dialogue is moving the story forward, as opposed to me, the storyteller, just moving the story forward. So that's the difference, right? So 3-word dialogue scenes are really, really valuable, because as you may have noticed in your writing, in your scene, it distills the action of the scene to like a real direct arrow, like a line. You're just shooting an arrow right there, as opposed to what happens with most new writers, including, I've done this, still do it sometimes myself, right? Is we want to over explain and over talk about it. Instead of Larissa saying, I need time, I'd say, I really need time because I have all these things to do and blah, 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 and I go on, right? When all I need to say was, I need time, and Clementine could say, for what, right? And then I answer everything. And that's it. That's all we have to say. So we've already, instead of me talking about time and all things, and Clementine saying, but for what? And, blah, 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 and then me saying, well, there's all, now listing all the things. Now it's taken 3 minutes and the story's barely moved forward. Where instead, in 3 minutes, I could do 10 pages of this scene, and the stories move way forward. Now Clementine and I are off in, we've made it to New York and who knows what's happening. You know, all these other things can happen so quickly. And that's what we need. That's the difference with dialogue, is that we want it to move fast. Script writing moves, has action in the storytelling, and moves quickly. So that is why I love these scenes, these 3-word dialogue scenes. They make things move forward really fast. They get straight to the meat of the scene and the action, and they make something happen very quickly. So then what I would do, so here's how I'd use this little 3-word dialogue scene, is I'm creating the script, right? So I'd say, you know what? When I would pick something, when I say everything, maybe there's a reason in the plot, in the story I'm trying to tell, where I need people to understand what everything is, because that's an important plot point. It's going to come up later that Larissa has these particular things she's doing and then she needs time for. So that I'd expand that line longer. And then I'd say, when she says, you can't have it. And I'd say, why not? She said, it's not yours. Maybe part of my story is explaining about Teoshpei and how we work together and how we collectively, you know, own things, or who owns what and whatever. Yeah, I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head right now. But so maybe that's what that's about, you know. And so we need to extend that line to say a few of those things. So that's how I'd use the scene. I'd say, okay, this is the action, and I know how it has to go, and I know how quickly. And now I know every once in a while I need to extend this line a little bit, because we need more information for the next, to set up the next thing. And that's where we'd expand it. So that's one way I use these scenes. But often, I got to tell you, when we do these exercises in our workshops with community members, it's shocking how often these scenes go directly into the script, because we create a script together with everybody. Everybody's writing on the same topic. And then we take out, when we do these workshops in community, and then we take these scenes and then I put them together to make one play, a short play. And it's shocking how often I just take these scenes exactly as is and put them in our script with just a little connector at the beginning and the end, because they're exciting and they're fast and they move and we know exactly what's happening. We see what the problem is and we see how to solve it, and we see them fail or we see them win. And that's what script writing is for. So that happens a lot. I'll say one other thing I'll do, especially toward the end of your play or your script, we start doing what I call throwing paragraphs, right? I say a paragraph, and then Clementine says a paragraph, and then Peter says a paragraph, right? Because we're reaching the end and we want everyone to understand everything. And so we start telling, our character starts explaining why I did this and blah, blah, blah. As soon as I see paragraphs going back and forth, we're throwing them at each other on my page, I stop, I get that my little book, and I start doing 3 words. I redo the scene in 3-word dialogue sentences. And suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't need to say any of that. All I need to say is, it's not yours. That's all. I don't have to explain. I don't have to do any of that. I can just say that and we'll keep moving forward. And so I use that as kind of an exercise to get rid of those paragraphs. And I start writing them when characters start saying them at each other. So we're actually at time. We started a little late, so I'm just gonna kind of wrap this up. So that's the beginning, right? So that's the beginning of writing dialogue, as opposed to storytelling, where we are usually one, not always, person painting a picture. This is, we use these exercises. The first exercise is just to figure out what you want to write about, what I call clear the pipes, to get ready to start your day. Now, what I was going to do, but we kind of ran out of time, which you might want to do afterwards, is another one I do. Oh, hey, sorry. We have some time for questions. I'll just tell you real quick. One thing I would do with this scene is I'd take one of these characters when I'm first starting, and I would say, I'm going to take Larissa and I'm going to write from her perspective and do some of these timed writing, these wild mind writing. And I would say, okay, Larissa, I'm going to do one called I Had a Dream Last Night. And I'm just going to write and not stop and see what Larissa dreams about. So I'm not sure where, so I have a lot of material to use for her later. And so that I can keep going and keep writing until I have a whole story. Yes, questions, please. I don't know where they're going to come from.
No, so if there's anyone in the Zoom room that would like to ask a question or give a comment, Donnie, I know you had posted earlier about being excited to meet Larissa virtually. And then we also had Deb Bordeaux and Cynthia New Holy both said hello and good afternoon in the chat. So if folks have questions, we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Don. So pages, it depends what you're writing. So when you're doing film and TV scripts, they should be a minute a page. So if you're doing a half hour like HBO show, that means 30 minutes, right? And those are actually, by the way, comedies are formatted a little different. They have double spacing in the line. So I can't draw that right now. But anyway, so a minute a page for film and TV scripts. And then theater, sometimes mine run very fast. I try to keep my dialogue short. So they're also a minute a page, sometimes it's a minute and a half. So if you want to do, I like 80 to 90 minute script theater piece without an intermission. So I know I have to do about, 80 pages, maybe even less if the dialogue's pretty quick. If you're doing a movie, 120 pages would be 120 minutes. So that'd be a full 2-hour movie, unless there's big action scenes that are going to take a long time. Then you want to shorten it. But even 90 pages is fine for a feature film script. And then TV shows, depending, right, how long. You also, if you're writing for network, you have to make it a little shorter. So because of commercials, so a 50-page script is an hour-long drama on TV. So I hope that kind of does it. You do not want. No one wants, people do them every once in a while. There's always an exception, but you don't want to send anybody a 100-page, 200-page script. No one's going to read it. You want to keep it, just think a minute per page for film and TV, a minute and a half for theater. So think about how long that's going to take and keep it within that. How long do you take each writing session to warm up with these types of prompts? I like to do, I like to do 4. So I do 3 minutes each, I guess that's 12 minutes. That's just me. I don't know why. That just feels like a good amount of time to me. Some people do more, some people do less. Some people just do one and or do a bunch of them for a minute and just to get through them really quickly and to just kind of clear out everything else and get in touch with that subconscious writing or just do it till you feel ready. I also would say, I've talked to a lot of folks, Indigenous folks that I work with around the world really, but around their nation, especially that are, they have stuff to do. They're busy. They got kids, they got work. And I was talking to one woman who wrote her first full-length play, 10 minutes a day. And I was like, gosh, that's amazing. She'd do 1 minute warm-up, do a little writing session warm-up for 1 minute, set a timer, write for 9 more, write dialogue for 9 more minutes, stop, and then get back to it. It was at the end of her lunch every day. And that's, she just set a timer and did it for 10 minutes and she wrote a full-length play. I was so proud of her and it was a really beautiful play. She knew what she wanted to write about. She just didn't have more than 10 minutes a day and she got it done and it was pretty exciting. Any questions, thoughts?
That's really, I love that you can do that in 10 minutes a day. I know both Taryn and I are trying to write dissertations, so any writing suggestions is very helpful. Yeah. We do have my mom had another comment on Facebook. She said, "I'm not a writer, and I'm glad you are the writer."
I don't know, the stellar writing I just did between Clementine and I and Peter and I. But thank you. You are a writer, though. I argue you are a writer. You really, yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit? When people might say, "I'm not a writer," how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I'd say for the good news is for dialogue and for what I'm talking about, script writing, if you can think, you can write a script because all it is words going back and forth. Or action, if you're not a person who speaks, it's some sort of action to communicate back and forth. So that's why I love theater for our people, because it doesn't take anything except your thoughts, a teeny tiny little free notebook I was given at a conference, and me. And so, Clementine and I could over Zoom now do this. I could type in the chat and we could do this play, or we could be together and do this play. So it doesn't take any special equipment, doesn't take money. We can perform in a hotel room. We can perform outside in the parking lot. We don't need anything to do theater, and I love that. And we have a couple of quick questions here too about how do you end the session so you aren't starting cold the next day. For me, I get to an end of something. I'm fortunate that I do this for my living, so I have a little more time. I have more than 10 minutes. So I actually do it by page because I have so many deadlines. So I say I have to write this many pages each day to make my deadline of the script. It's going to be, say, a 60-page script about. So I know I have to do, 10 pages a day, which is, I know is a lot. I often do sometimes I'll do like 17 a day. And so I just get to my page count and then I just stop and then I get right and I start from there the next day. For me, I tend to think things through. I don't outline. Lots of people do. I don't outline. I just kind of wait. I do a lot of research and a lot of walking and thinking. And eventually I kind of just see the story in my head. I see the play in my head. And then I just start typing and I just type those 10 pages every day. And when I get done, I stop or however many pages I have to do. And then I just start up again the next day, but it's already in my head. So it's kind of, once I start writing, it's pretty easy. Have I done plays? Of course. Have I done plays with young relatives in tribal nations? I've seen plays in community, but they have not been led by Indigenous writers' relatives. Yes, that's what we do, Dawn. That is exactly what we do. All my playwriting workshops, all my theater workshops I do with the young and old. We do it with all ages. So elders, young people, everyone in between, they write their own plays. I am not bring us in. Yeah, they always write their own plays. I've got plenty of plays to be doing, but we don't even do that. I prefer them to write their own stories. So it's not even just led by Indigenous writers, it's led by them. So for instance, we just did this one is a quick one, in 6 hours of workshops with the kids in back down at Lake Andes, they did, I think it was how long was that play? Like a 12-page play they put together. And our littlest writer was only 8 years old. And he wrote a monologue and a scene that were put into the play. So these little people are making, and everywhere we go. Last year at Milks Camp, we did like a 20-minute show that the kids created, because that's the whole Lakota youth development. We do every summer, a whole week-long summer theater camp. We'll be doing it again this year in August. Any kids can come from anywhere in the state. And there we have a whole week. So we get to do script writing, really get into acting, do some costumes or whatever. We have them memorize it and stage it and do it as a full performance. And these little people, it's entirely their show. They create themselves. And that's really important to me, that they're creating the work. And then so that they're empowered and not just reading what someone else tells them to read, because we've kind of done enough of that in our world. Those are the things. Oh, thank you. It was an 8-minute reading, all written by youth ages 8 to 16, which is pretty awesome. And then they perform it too. So they really get all kinds of experience doing that. So yeah, we'd love to come. We'd love to come out to your community. Like I said, we don't just work with youth though. I've done lots of writing workshops with elders. They have stories they want to tell. Sometimes maybe they don't want to perform them. And so I've also done where we talk to elders, we pair youth with elders, and they talk and say, what stories you want me to tell? We did this with Milks Camp community once, where we talked to the elders, said, tell us the stories you remember of Milks Camp, of this community, of this space. And then when they were done with that, and then that was at Powwow one weekend. And then the next week, the kids and I got together and they all decided what story they liked the best. And then they helped them write. We went through a workshop and did monologues and scenes of each of these stories. And then I kind of weave them together like I do, and then they perform them. And we work with them on performing them. And so they performed their own play that they wrote on their community. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, because the elders were actually not feeling the performing, but I also have worked with a lot of elders that want to perform, and then everybody in between. Everybody can do this. Everybody can write. Everyone can talk. Not everyone can talk. Everyone can communicate, hopefully in some way, and we support however they want to do that. And we love to come out and do it. We do it for free. This is our way of giving back to community. We raise the money to pay ourselves, and we love to do this. So please do contact us at cornerstonetheater.org. There you go. Anything else? We're good? Okay.
Yeah, I just thank you, Larissa. I'm really appreciative that you shared with us this writing workshop. I know we're not supposed to share out, but I wrote dialogue between my cat and another cat, which I thought was really fun. And especially that you're on the road. I know you're going to be on the road a lot in the next year, getting back on the road, right? Now with vaccines, but just thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And again, if folks are interested and connecting with Larissa or with Cornerstone Theater Company. We'll be doing this show out in South Dakota Territory, in the Northern Plains with Oceti-Sakowin communities in 2023, but we'll be doing these outreach trips over the next 8 months. So please be in contact with Cornerstone, with Larissa, with myself. And thank you, Larissa. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, just I'm excited to see all of your writing out in the world. Please just do it, put it out there. And the more we do it, the more we model it for others, the braver everybody will be. And pretty soon we'll have so many writers creating incredible theater right where you are. I can't wait to see it all.
Cool. Thank you so much. And we will be ending the live stream wherever Peter is. And so those, maybe if you're catching the tail end of this on Facebook, the video will be available through Racing Magpie. And so if you would like to review the